What we do is we bring in very accomplished entrepreneurs like Phil, and we interview them, kind of Q&A. It's very informal. Just talk about experiences, talk about what inspires them, what's their passion, some of the problems that they've had as they've scaled up their business or successes. And so that way you can learn from them. And it's a Q&A that lasts about 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll go into audience Q&A. And the last thing we do at the end is we allow you 10 seconds to stand up, talk about your business, what you do, and we highly encourage folks that if somebody stands up, talks about a business, what Rajou's doing, then go over and talk to them. This is what it's all about, just meeting people and learning. So with that, I want to thank you very much for Jennifer Connolly. Where's Jennifer? Back in the back. She's the one that makes all this happen. She runs the Alcatel Gravity Lucent Center. So she had the idea to start the Gravity Center from Alcatel Lucent up above this. And she's been very kind to allow us to sponsor this, or sponsors this for us, and then also, obviously, with the location. So with that, I want to thank Phil for coming in. Our first interviewee was Sanjeev Sidhu, and if you all recall, one of the things Sanjeev said is that every entrepreneur is an artist, and you are actually an artist.
Yeah, that's with a BS in front of it.
Don't sell yourself short, Judge. You're a tremendous slouch. Talk about how you got into that, kind of what drives you there.
Being an artist?
Yeah.
Well, I think being an entrepreneur is being an artist. You know, I mean, you got to create, and you're creating something on canvas. And it's I do that when I haven't got anything to create. I go down to get a canvas. It's a plain canvas, and and that's the challenge. I'm going to create something with it. And
right.
When I get all done, I come back the next day and I look at it. I do with acrylics and oils. When I'm dealing with oils, I got to finish it the day I do it, and they're big canvases. So I go back the next day and I look at it and say, geez, where the hell did that come from? And I created something that's unique. There's only one of a kind in the whole world, and I got it right there in front of me. And it kind of, gets me excited. And it's like I always said, I don't need a tombstone. I get enough art out, and I've started this gallery about 2 years ago, and I probably sold about pretty close to $2 million worth of art, and my art, and I bellied up with her, joined this other guy, J.D. Miller, who's an artist. He's in museums and so forth. So, and he taught me how to use oils. Before that, I just used acrylics, and. So it's amazing that, the first time I was going to sell my art, I didn't know what to charge. It's there, it's canvas, and I did it, and I was wondering if it's good enough for people to buy, and it was. It was because it looked professional. It wasn't amateurish, and that's what I try to do anything. Every time I do something, I try to do it where it looks like it's been done by somebody that knew what it was doing.
And so you are totally self-taught, right? There's no classical training. It's just your right brain moving and your hands moving as well. Yeah. That's pretty special.
It's a lot cheaper to create a canvas than it is a restaurant sometimes, or a business.
We'll get into that in a minute. So I don't like to go into where'd you grow up. You grew up in New York, and you kind of came to Texas and all that. Everybody can read that. What I like to get at is, what is your passion? What drives you? What is the thing that makes you want to get a speeding ticket coming to work every day? And it doesn't have to be one thing.
Well, I always said it's not the sweet smell of success that makes you work hard. It's the fear of failure. If you fail, you're done. Boom. Especially being an entrepreneur. And I remember my first restaurant that I did. I was in college, and I had karate schools, and this guy, this kid I was teaching, was in a restaurant business and needed a partner. Well, here I am, in college and learning all about the service motivation prompts a good business, not profit. Don't think about making money. Think about giving something to the people that they really need to have, and you make twice as much money. Right. Service motivated, not profit. So I couldn't wait to get into some kind of business, and being in college and everything, restaurant business, all the booze and coos and women and all that stuff. That's for me. So I sold my karate schools. And I got
hang around Phil long enough, you will learn new terms.
I got into the restaurant business with him.
Right.
And this guy turned out to be a total jerk. He was just a bad guy. And we had a push-pull. He buys me out, I buy him out. So You know, he came up with a price, and I had a choice, and I didn't have any money. You know, I just got out of, in college.
College, right.
I sold my karate schools, enough to make the first investment with them. And so it was funny, my father came up to me and said, "Oh, I'll get you the money." I said, "Dad, where are you going to get the money?" He's a hard-working, middle-class man. He was an electrician, you know. He had a little company, but he didn't have any money. And I said, "Where are you going to get the money?" You know, being Italian, I was kind of worried about where he was going to get it. So he said, "I'll get it." He said, "I'll get it." So what he did, he went out, and my mother and my father, they mortgaged their home.
Wow.
To get me the money. Now, you talk about the fear of failure. If I failed, man, my mother and father are going to lose the house. I had to come up with all kinds of ideas, be innovative, creative, and make that thing work, and it did. And I paid my father back in spades, and I got him I got the house and all that, and I made him a partner in a lot of stuff that I was doing.
That's cool. I was going to ask this later, but you talk about partnership. You and Stuart have been doing things together a long time. He's involved with a lot of things, as you can imagine. One that you might not be aware of is a company called Scientific Health Development, which we'll talk about. Yeah. And another one is West Dallas. So if you go over the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge, as soon as you get to West Dallas, they have 80 acres that they purchased, and they started buying those acreages before the bridge was actually announced. And he's had this partnership for a long time. And Phil, as you can imagine, is not a withering violet. Neither is Stuart. And I think, I would assume, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you learned some lessons early on in this restaurant that you've kind of manifested that self with your relationship with Stuart. Kind of talk about that, because that's something when people start businesses, oftentimes they have a partner, and how you structure that and how you approach it oftentimes determines whether you're going to be successful or not.
Yeah, well, Stuart's a young guy, okay? I mean, everybody's young now compared to me, but he's a young guy, and you know, and it's good to, I mentored him a little bit, you know, and I calm him down, and he's mad all the time, you know. It seems like he's mad all the time, you know, Stuart, right?
I do, yeah.
And Stuart, don't be mad all the time. I mean, they're not going to know when you're really mad.
You can't bluff.
You can't bluff. I said, be a nice guy once in a while, you know, and then when you get mad, they'll know it. But he's you know, he's smart, and he's honest, smart. He's a hard worker. He's very, very good. And he does a lot of things that I don't want to do, like to do, and all that stuff. Right. You know, he's computer savvy and all that stuff. But he's good, and it's been a good relationship. It's like a father-son relationship, really. You know?
So it started out as kind of a mentor relationship, and then kind of evolved. I'm sure you're learning a few things from him as kind of more early stuff.
Well, yeah, he was. Stuart was, you know, I don't know. I guess he was like a trust fund baby. I think, you know, Stuart's
Lucky
background.
Sperm Club.
Lucky Sperm Club. Well, and he's always taught, you know, capital or preservation rather than going out and trying to make money. Right. How do I don't care about making any money? I want to keep what I got, you know. Right. So, and he's very bored. I thought. I said, "Gee, how can you live like that? You know, you got to do something."
Go out on the edge.
So I got him involved with me, you know, and put him on the edge and all this stuff. And he sweated a little bit, but he came across. He's a pretty good businessman, an entrepreneur now, and he takes chances and all that, and takes risk, and he's good.
So if you took your collective experience working with partners and you were forming a new business, what are the things that you would do in terms of analyzing whether this is a partner that's good for you?
Well, you got to do things that I don't want to do.
Okay.
I mean, you're both doing the same thing. You have some issues and problems. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got, in my restaurants, I got a guy, Joe Palladino, you know, he come in, started off with me as, with Nick and Sam's, the steakhouse. He started off there, he came from Vegas and running restaurants there, and I brought him in and started off with a 3% interest on it, mm-hmm. You know, and he did well, just an operator, and I brought him along, and now he owns 26% of it, and now he wanted to do other things, and I said, you know, he's a good operator, and, you know, I like to create, and I don't like to go and do the same thing day after day after day.
Right.
I just like to create. So he was the guy that was running these things, so he ran them for me. So
he did a good job with him.
He did a great job, you know, and I'd give him wisdom and get him along. Now we're 50-50 partners in the things we do, and And it's like a guy I brought up and raised, and I don't do anything anymore, and I still make money from the guy.
Right.
You know,
That's a good partner.
Yeah, it's a good partnership.
And I would assume he didn't have some expectation he was going to be 50-50 partner. That kind of evolved, or was it more you do this, and you're going to get this? Because that can be difficult at times.
Well, I learned this when I was really young. I had a guy, the bartender for me at one of my places, and he was good. I mean, he was an Irish guy. He didn't drink that much. But
Reform Irish.
Yeah, reform. But he was good. Mm-hmm. He did. Everybody knew him and everything else. And he said, "Gee, you know, I'm going to go open up my own place." I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Where at?" He told me. I said, "Where are you going to get the money?" He said, "Well, I'm going to try to raise it and get some partners." I said, "Well, I'll partner with you. I'll be your partner. You know, if you could do it for me, you're going to do it for yourself. I want a piece of what you're going to do over there."
Right.
So I owned half of his business with him, and I put half the money up, or all the money up, I think. And I made a lot of money from the guy. Mm-hmm. But if you got somebody and you created something, and you know, I'd like to see him get along and make money with him.
Right. So I call it the defective gene of an entrepreneur, and you do it multiple times over and over again. What is the source of that inspiration? Do you just kind of always looking for new ideas and how to improve? That's my orientation, but some people have other sources of inspiration for that creativity.
Well,
I don't think there's one answer, but you know, kind of what are some of your past inspiration sources?
I think I just look for opportunities. I mean, I give a lot of talks and lectures or whatever at universities and colleges and stuff, and all these young kids say, "Well, I want to be an entrepreneur." You know, I mean,
we call them entrepreneurs until they do it.
Yeah, I know. And I said, "How can I become an entrepreneur?" And I said, "Well, it's not an easy life, and you know, you got to take risks and chances and everything. But here's what I would do if you want to be an entrepreneur." I said, "I'd get my education, whatever my aptitude would be. I'd go to work in a company, get a job, work in a company. Okay, understand it, and understand the problems that's plaguing that industry and that problem or that company. What's the problems? I'd sit back and I'd come up with a solution for those problems. I'd leave the company, create a company with the solutions, and go back and sell it to the company." And I'm an entrepreneur. Because being an entrepreneur, you got to recognize the needs, what people want. You can't, nothing's going to work, no matter what business you're in, if you're not giving the people something they really need and they really want. Mm-hmm. And they can't live without it. I say, let me give you an example. I look at, a couple doctors came to me. A lot of people think I made a lot of money in the restaurant business. Well, that's not where I made most of my money. I made it in investing in somebody else's ideas, okay? And but I made my money to invest in other ideas from the restaurant business, and I still do that. A couple guys came to me. I just got out of Fuddruckers. I sold Fuddruckers and had a whole bunch of money, and not more money than I had more money than I could spend, but not more money I could lose. And so yeah, that goes. But anyway, so a couple doctors came to me, and there's a doctor that, a cardiologist, and at a country club, and he said, he drew this deal out that this radiologist invented. Okay, and they call it the stent, the heart stent. And he drew it out on a cloth napkin with a felt pen. In fact, you know, I don't know why I did it, but I signed it. He signed it, and I signed it. You know, we dated it and everything else. And I used that in some patent infringement lawsuit we had against us. Okay, but I was able to date it, and the time we went there and everything else, and substantiate it and dated it, and had that. We used it in court.
So napkins are admissible in court of law.
They are.
Yeah, good job.
So anyway, so he showed me this deal, and he said the University of Texas doesn't want to fund it anymore. This radiologist invented it. He says, "Let's go down," and I said, "Well, I'll go take a look at it, because I just get out of Fuddruckers, and I had this money, and I want to invest in other people's ideas." And this is the first one I invested in.
Wow.
So I went and looked at it at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. And they showed it to me. I brought my attorney and accountants, and we looked at it. And my attorney said, "Don't do it." My accountant said, "Don't do it." And I said, "Well, you know, I like the doctors, and I think this thing has a lot of sex appeal." I said, "What do you mean sex appeal?" I said, well, everybody has a heart, and everybody abuses it. So if this thing works, it's going to be one hell of a market. Okay, so sure enough, well, I got out there, we did it, we sold it. In the process we went through, the doctor, Julio Palmaz is the doctor that invented it. Richard Schatz is the cardiologist he was an interventional cardiologist. So he was using it at the time. All they were doing was balloon angioplasty. Okay, then we decided, okay, got the stent, put it on the balloon, and then we were doing that. So we didn't even have any FDA submissions ready, anything, nothing. We were using it, we were testing it, we had it in dogs, we sacrificed the dogs, then we went to baboons and in San Antonio and did the baboons. And this Julio had impeccable data, okay, scientific data. So he got all that, was able to get it and correlate it. And then Richard was doing all the angioplasty around, and so all these guys from the different companies, you know, you were out there and we'd show it to them and they'd get excited and they'd have their vice presidents from the different companies come in and take a look at it and what it was and all. So we had, I mean, Johnson & Johnson, Guy, we must have had, you know, Boston Scientific at the time. We had about 7 or 8 companies very excited about what we had.
And they wanted to license it, or what did they want to do?
Well, yeah, they came in and they started talking to us, and one, I said, well, you know, what would your company do if they had it? You know, they all stand in line trying to get us now, get it. And I said, what is your, they all came back, I guess they must have used the same marketing company, because they all came back with about $500 million worth of, that's what it's going to be worth. That's the market size of the market. Well, it ended up being a $8 billion market.
Yeah, let's say.
Yeah, I got late on that one. But anyway, we got it done where I just took that marketing thing and hit him over the head with it. Said, okay, so what will you give me? And he went back and forth all around, and we had all these different companies that give me pretty good deals. But we made the deal with Johnson & Johnson, mainly because they had a marketing arm out there.
Distribution.
They had the distribution. They had it, you know, to get the black bag, they go in the doctor's offices, you know, they had the connections. They, hey, look what else I got here today. So they were able to get it out there, and also had the capability of training, because this is a new product, okay? It had to be trained and people how to use it and so forth. So they had that set up too. And so they came in and they paid us $10 million cash up front. All I had in it was I put the money up for this thing, and I put in $250,000. And I was going to handle all the business part of it, and we were going to just keep on doing the research. And I put I got it from the university, and all we had to do was give the university 5% of what Julio would make on it, okay, because he's working for the university. And then I got it from the university, and I got the patent work done, and then we started showing it. But universities now have they changed that whole thing. We winged them on that one. They don't do that anymore. But so they gave us $10 million up front with some milestones, and then they were giving us, I got a 10% royalty, okay, on the coronary areas, and we had a 7% royalty on the peripherals. Well, you know, you take the easiest way to the marketplace, and that was for the peripherals. So we got that first, and then we went from there to the coronaries. Well, within, we end up making, within about an 8-year period, I owned 30% of the company. Julio owned 55, and Schatz owned, I think, 15, 12, or something like that. So they paid us in royalties, and then they wanted to buy the whole thing out, which we let them. But we made about $600 million on a $250,000 investment.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, that was good. And so after that, so it was funny.
Was this like a month, or was it 3 months?
No, it took within a year and a half.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, within a year and a half. And what happened was, after that, you know, I made a lot of connections with all the different medical companies and all that. And all of a sudden, everybody thought I knew what I was doing. And I didn't. I just had a great product, and they were listening to me, and they wanted my product, you know, and that wasn't me. It was the product that got this thing happening. So everybody started coming to me with ideas and different things, and we kept going and kept looking at different deals, and I had a network set up, doctors, of advisors, of companies, you know, the presidents of the different companies. So when I'd get something, looking at it, I'd give them a call, you know, and I'd talk to them about it. If they had some interest, I'd them take a look at it or show them some more and get the thing protected. And if they liked it, then okay, I would pursue it. If they didn't like it, didn't ring their bell, I didn't mess with it. I said, well, no thank you, but it's not going to work. So that's how I kind of got all this help, and people that knew what they were doing understood that industry. That's how I got it, you know, whether I was going to get involved with it or not. And hence since, I did this, in fact, right up the street here on Hoyt, a place called the American Institute of Gastric Banding. A couple doctors, again, came to me and said, you know, we've been doing this band, lap band. And he says, this lap band has diapers on it. It just came out, and we just got approved by the FDA. And we're doing it in outpatient surgical centers, okay? And the surgical centers are making all the money, and we want to own surgical centers. And there's the two doctors, and they did, at the time, they did about 1,500 already procedures, so they were good and all, and got me to understand it. Again, sex appeal. That market had sex appeal. Obesity is an epidemic out there, right? There's a lot of fat people. They don't know what to do and everything else, obese. So this is something good. It's going to help people. So, so we formed a partnership. I owned 50% of it. That I put $800,000 in that. And we started buying up old surgical centers. We ended up with 3 surgical centers, put no more money in it. And I got the doctors, I got the loan set up for them, but they had to sign it, you know, severally, okay? So they're going to, you know, hold their feet to the fire and work and be obligated and not take off, because doctors are hard to deal with. So we ended up selling that to a leveraged buyout company. They paid us $90 million cash for 60% of the company. And it was a company, Sorensen, a company out of Salt Lake City, came in. It was a spin-off of Baines International. Okay. So they bought it, and I don't know why, but everybody, every time they buy it, whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a company, okay, that I've created this, they got to take it and they got to change it. You know, it's like they got to piss on it and make it theirs. It's terrible. I said, well, why are you buying it from me? Why don't you just create something yourself or copy me, you know, because you're changing it around. I mean, they took this and they changed the legacy model that we had for this surgical center.
What did they do?
We made
they screwed it up, or they do,
well, they screwed it up.
Yeah.
They came in it from a LASIK model, and we had a whole completely different model. We had the doctors owning part of it, you know, and the whole thing. We made, let's see, we had 3 places, and we were making $26 million in 3 places. That's why we were able to sell it and flip out of it, and they got it, and they screwed it up. And I still had, you know, I had 40% of the company I had. They took about 60. So anyway,
Is it not lost on you that you start Fuddruckers that creates the clogs in the heart, and then you're vertically integrated and put it out?
Well, people ask me, you know, what concept I think I got the most gratification out of or enjoyed most, and that was the heart stent. I mean, I saved a lot of lives. As a matter of fact, about 2 summers ago, I got a summer home up there in New York, and I'm running in the morning, running up the hills, and man, I'm having a hard time breathing, you know, and felt like I had indigestion, so I called my guy, a friend of mine, the cardiologist, a close friend, and I said, hey, I think I need one of my stents. So he flew me down. I flew down that morning, and that afternoon, I got 2 stents in me, and the next day I was back there, and 3 days later, I was going up the hills. Man. But it's like eating my own food 25 years later.
Exactly. IP Magazine said that the Palmar's heart stent was one of the 10 most important patents in the history of mankind.
Yeah, it changed the world.
Saved 5 million lives. He was an investor in it.
First investor. You know, it's funny how I think myself, and there's a kind of phases I went through in my life. You know, when I first started off, you know, I did things to make money. I wanted to make money. I mean, that was the motivation, right? And after you make money and you make enough of it, and you still want to make money, but The next thing I did, the reason why I did things was for social recognition. I want to be recognized for the things I did, you know. I want to be recognized, you know. Then the third reason, that's where I am now, and that's why I do the things I'm doing today. I do it for intrinsic value. I do it because it makes me feel good doing it. Okay, it's something that I think it helps people.
Yeah, giving back.
You know, giving back, and that's what I'm motivated now. The things I do, and this is why I do a lot of this medical stuff, you know, because it helps people. It makes me, like I always say that, now it sounds like I'm egotistical, but I say that I'm a mad person. I lead a mad life. M-A-D. I make a difference. That the world would be a different place if I wasn't here. If I didn't do the things I did, the world would be different. I wouldn't have the stent, I wouldn't have a lot of the things, medical stuff, a lot of different medical stuff I did, eating the restaurants that I created, you know, food, all these kids that put to college, their parents working for me. And I made a difference. The world would be different if I didn't do the things I did.
That's cool.
And that stimulates the hell out of me. You know, every day I get my employees, as a matter of fact. Every day, you know, with ETs, especially, you know, I got a button that we put on them, M-A-D. You know, I'm mad. You know, and people, what's that? Well, I'm going to make a difference. How can I make a difference in your day today? What can I do for you to make a difference? You know, and I say every day I want them to get up in the morning and say, okay, what am I going to do today to make a difference? Make a difference in myself, make a difference in my community, make a difference in other people. Right. How can I make a difference? You know, and this is what everybody's got to do, make a difference, whatever it is, but do something.
Right. You talked about, and this happens a lot, when a business gets sold and somebody kind of screws it up. What is something, or what are some of the things that you've seen that make a business not only sustainable but thrive over very, very long periods of time? Because I read this a while back. In 1965, the Fortune 500, 68% of those companies are wiped off, including the Walmart of the day, which was A&P Grocery. Anybody remember A&P?
Yeah, Atlantic and Pacific.
Walmart of the day, and they're gone. So what are some of the things that you've seen that either kill companies or create sustainable companies?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm good at creating stuff, okay? I create businesses, create everything, but I'm good at creating stuff. And no matter what it is, even creating a person. I got a son, you know, I got a 16-and-a-half-year-old son now. And I got two kids. I got my son and my wife.
Well, she says she is too. I don't know about what Billy says.
But anyway, but make it long story short, what I do is every business and every person, you know, they got to have a constitution. What would the United States of America be without a constitution? I know we're screwing around a little bit with it, with this administration, but if we didn't have a constitution and obey these, you know, the Constitution and stick to it,
right?
Yeah, where would we be? We wouldn't be a country that we're supposed to be, okay? And this is important. With your business, you got to do the same thing. What I do, like, I'll make it simple. A restaurant, Fuddruckers. Everybody been to Fuddruckers? Knows Fuddruckers? Okay.
First job out of high school.
All right, good. So here we are. You come into Fuddruckers, and I had to pick 5 things in Fuddruckers that were so important to the concept, so important to it, that if I deviated from them or didn't do them right, the concept would be perceived differently, act differently, wouldn't be the same. It would change the concept. That's how important these things are. So I said, these are my 5 things. I picked them out. I had my employees pick them out. We asked the customers, and we came up with it. Okay? These are the 5 things we never change. Okay? This is our core. This is what we are. And as an individual, you do the same thing to yourself, but they're called principles. You have your principles, right? And if you start changing your principles, people aren't going to like you because they like you because of your principles. Same thing in a business. They like your business because of what you are, because of these things, your core competencies here, your Bill of Rights. You start changing them, they're not going to like your business. They're not going to come back to you. The attitude of the customers is going to change. The attitude of your employees is going to change. Your food's going, everything's going to change because you haven't got that constitution. So you got to do that, whether it's an individual or whether it's a deal. My son, for example, when he's a kid, I mean, he's still a kid, but I used to drive him to school every day. You know, when he got his license, I had to go through the draw. But I had him like I could brainstorm him. I mean, brainwash him. Brainwash him for as long as I was going to school, you know. But I used to tell him, I said, Sam, For you to be a good person in life, there's 6 things that you got to have, that you got to do. 1, you got to have principles. And he'd say principles were sticking to your deal. The second thing you got to have, you got to have responsibility. Responsibility is be responsible for making the right decision, okay, and be responsible for the decision you make. Third, you got to have integrity. You got to be honest. Never lie, you got to be honest. And don't lie to yourself, and be honest with yourself. The fourth thing you got to do is you got to be able to communicate. Tell people how you feel, okay, and what you think. You got to communicate that. Always be communicative. And the third thing was you got to have faith and religion and loyalty, okay, patriotism. Okay. And the 6th thing, you got to have charity. You got to give back. So you have all these 5 things, and you're going to be a good person. And what's going to happen is, I trust you. I trust you 100%. What I don't trust are your friends. But they're going to get you in trouble.
Right, right.
So whether they're female or male, they're going to get you in trouble. So what you got to do is if you have these principles, people with the same principles are going to gravitate towards you. And you're going to gravitate toward the people that have those kind of principles. Right. So it's very important to be the person you're going to be, to have these principles. The same thing with your business. Same thing with your companies, same thing with your startups or whatever you're doing. Once you get it going, figure out what's important to it. And make that, if they're so important that you can make that the basis for your brand when you start branding yourself. It gives you that secondary meaning when you're branding yourself about what are you? Well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. It's so obvious that people understand it.
Right. I want to ask you, go back to some of the things you said. I kind of identify needs, and Dallas has a lot of restaurants. Texas has a lot of restaurants. There's a lot of choice in restaurants. And you've had the ability to go find needs, and the one I want to zero in on is Rudy's. Texas didn't need another barbecue store, but you created something successful. So what did you see that Texas needed that Rudy's kind of filled that need in a sea of barbecue joints?
Well, whenever you do something in the restaurant business, you got to have a point of difference. You can't be like everybody else, right. Okay? You got to distinguish yourself or differentiate yourself from everybody else. And this is what you got to have, that point of difference. And again, you make that point of difference the basis for your brand. Mm-hmm. So I remember when I did Rudy's, it was in San Antonio, and I bought this little town called Leon Springs. It was about 5 acres, and it had an old dance hall on it, and I took that dance hall. That's where I did the first macaroni grill. Then I did, and they had a country store on the end there, a gas station, and they still had a lease. So I had to buy the guy out of his lease. We took over the country store, and I said, well, I want to stick a barbecue place on the side of this store. And the guy's name is Randolph, so we called the place Rudy's. Mm-hmm. And then we put the barbecue there, so it's Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. So I traveled around the state of Texas. And I tried to learn all I could about barbecue. I took a guy that was going to be a chef. He worked at a country club, and also I took him with me, and we traveled around, and we saw all kinds of barbecue places. And a barbecue place that I really liked, that I thought was unique and different, was a place in Lockhart, Texas, called Christ Barbecue.
Market.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
We went there, and a couple of old Germans had it, and good old boys, and they had the thing where you pull the lid up. Same thing you get to see at Rudy's, exactly. So I kept going over there, and I said, I'd like to build one of these in San Antonio. Would you like to license it to me, or if there was franchise or something? I'd like to do one. I did Fuddruckers, and I understand how to do that, and I'd like to do that. And they says, well, we don't want to do it, but you can do it. He said, we'll show you how to do it. We'll show you everything, how to cook the food, how to do everything. So I said, okay, let me send my guy over, send my architect over there, everything else. He showed me everything. The guy stayed there for a month, seasoning everything. And we come back, we put the first Rudy's up, and bingo, it took off. But I remember...
But it was that concept of the market and the gas station, and the gas station just happened to be part of it, and you just saw that as that concept and made it unique?
Put it together. And then I think what we did when I started off, we call it Texas worst barbecue.
I do remember that.
Because every place you went, Texas best barbecue. That's all you saw all over the place, you know. So we said, well, let's call it Texas worst barbecue.
I remember that.
So, and it was different, unique, and you come in and just, you know, with the bread and the sheets of paper. In fact, we're putting one in West Dallas.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So before we get to kind of audience questions, you've had a very interesting career, and I think the answer would be summed up by what you would coach Sam when you were driving to school. But if you can impart your Yoda-like wisdom to other entrepreneurs, what are the principles, what are the insights that might not be so prevalent that you would share?
Well, let me tell you, you know, I've often said that if I didn't do the things that people told me not to do, I wouldn't be where I am today. All right? I mean, you gotta fight that. You know, people are going to say, you can't do it. That's a crazy idea. You're stupid for doing it and everything else. You do it anyway. And after you do it, yeah, you're a genius. If it works, you're a genius, an entrepreneur. You really know what you're doing, you know, and all. But I think you gotta listen to yourself, you know, and you gotta say, hey, if I want this, then, you know, and you gotta be willing to bet the farm. You know, when you gotta do this when you're young, before you have a family, before you have any obligations, and everything else. Because, you know, you gotta, sometimes you get knocked down, you gotta get up and wipe the dust off and go after it again. You know, but and do you learn from your mistakes? I guess you do. I mean, I don't want to pay attention to them. What do they say? You do something, if it doesn't work, you try again. If it doesn't work, you try again. And try it a third time, you destroy all the evidence that you even tried it in the first place.
That's good. Well, and I spent a lot of time at Dell Computer in the early days, and Michael Dell had similar advice. He said, always question conventional wisdom, because that's where you find opportunity.
You know, if I think I do, and you think about it, I do stupid things, okay? I do things that the Harvard MBAs and all the engineers and all the smart people don't do, okay? Because they won't do something unless it fits a model. It's got to fit a model. It's got to fit in their box. I do things outside the box. I do stupid things. So I'm doing the things that they don't do. They could look at the same deal I looked at, like for example, the stent. Cook catheter up there in Minneapolis or someplace up there. They looked at it. They said, nah, bullshit. We don't want it. It doesn't fit. It's not, you know, it'll never work, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I did it. You know, and then they tried to sue us that they had it first, but they didn't. They tried to get it back, but that's where we use that deal.
Right.
But you look at things that are, you know, anything's possible. You just put your head down and do it. But you got to have the idea. Is money important? Well, what's important is if I'm doing a restaurant chain, I can't sit down and tell somebody, I'm going to do a restaurant chain, this is what it's going to be like. I got to create a prototype. I got to create a prototype, and I got to get it to work. Then I got something to sell. That was show and tell. You can't just sell an idea without having a prototype. You got to make one up. You got to see it, and you got to feel it, and show it, and you got to demonstrate it and see how it works before you go out there and sell. But if you got the concept, you got the right thing, money will come to you. There's funds out there, and there's opportunity today with I don't know if you know, but there's so much money out there on the sideline. All these funds are out there, okay, and there's more money in pension plans and pension funds out there than in the Federal Reserve, okay. There's more, wow. And they're just waiting, and it's like they're what's waiting for the opportunity, and opportunity be coming soon if this election goes right. And so they got to get it invested. Okay, so, and one thing for entrepreneurs, you got to look at the trends, okay? And there's a big money trend coming along here, guys. Big opportunity coming. But you look at a trend. It's like a tidal wave. Okay, you see it coming. See it coming. You know, kind of understand it. Understand the marketplace. Understand what people want, what needs, and see it. There's a big tidal wave coming. You got to take, and there's a lot of tidal waves, you got to take something that's relevant to that tidal wave, okay, that you're going to create, and put it in front of that tidal wave and let it get swept away with it. But you got to imagine what it is, okay, and see it and
well, in the
get in front
restaurant
of it.
industry, you probably help foment a lot of that, with the exception of Macaroni Grill, a lot of them, these fast casual. Because people want to stay, they don't want to have to pay a server, a big tip. They want to go in and come out. And a lot of your concepts, if I kind of run through my head, you've got ETs, you've got Fuddruckers, you've got Rudy's, and others.
It's funny. Let me tell you something I'm working on. It's about maybe 90% there, not quite. But I'm thinking about buying Romano's Macaroni Grill back. In the group, I'm trying to buy it back, and buy it back and putting the Italian back in Macaroni Grill. Okay, it lost the Italian. You get every time the corporation now trying to act like an Italian, they can't do it. But I'm going to put the Italian back. I'm going to get in there, get it back to where it was in the first place. Get its principles back, get its culture back, get the opera singers going, get all that energy going back in there again. Get the food where it's peasant food and simple, not all the fancy bullshit. And put up there, and in fact, I'll be going to Italy, making up the ads. I'll try to become the Colonel Sanders of Macaroni Grill. And start going and fixing it, get it back to where it was, and go out there. So it's ready. It's ready for a story to be told about it. And I'm surprised and amazed that a lot of people come, like you said about Fuddruckers, but people coming to me with I used to work for you at Macaroni Grill, did this, I did that, my family, everybody knows it, And the worst thing of all, it's got my name on the top of it. Right. So I'm looking at it, and in fact, I was thinking about the time writing them and getting my lawyer to write them a letter, tell them to take my name down because it's being run so bad, Right. But I've got a good friend of mine now, he's the CEO of it. He's doing a great job. He's got it turned around and going in the right direction. I'll just get behind him, and I'll worry about the top line, and I'm worried about the operations, but I'll tune the operations up a little bit. But this is something I created. They screwed it up. I'm fixing it and going back in there with it. So that's going to be a fun deal. I think I'm going to be able to put it together.
That's cool. Before we go in, any questions from the audience? Yes. Do we have a mic? While he's doing that, because I have a mic, there's a gentleman named Manas Panda. He's with a company called Moksha Tech. He really wanted to be here. He's got a startup in the restaurant industry, but he could not. He said, would you please ask him a question? I said, fire away. And so his question, and this is interesting because you're not a core tech guy, but he said, do you see the restaurant industry going the way of the airline and hotel industry to real-time pricing? Which I think is a pretty interesting concept I've never even thought about.
Yeah, that's a point of difference if he did something like that.
True. That's a good point.
And he could go with it and make it, and if it hits people's fancy, fine. Just and the restaurant. Let me just go on about West Dallas because this is interesting. I'm starting this thing that Lee alluded to in West Dallas. We got about 90 acres over there total, and I'm taking the first 15 acres. I'm trying to figure out what to do with it, and it's like a dog chasing a car. You catch a car, what do you do with it? And I'm for the very first, well, not the very first time, but I'm doing something, and I usually know what I don't know. I'm not a developer, so. But I'm out there and I've learned. It's 7 years now. I think I'm as good as the developers. I'm making the mistakes. But what we're going to do is take the first 15 acres as you come over the bridge. And they got about 150,000 square feet of buildings there. We're going to scrape all the ground around them, put crushed granite and trees. I light these trees up so it looks like Highland Park Village, and all the trees all lit up. Yeah. And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to create restaurant concepts. We're going to be a restaurant concept incubator. We're going to incubate restaurant concepts. I want to put about 30 restaurant concepts down there, okay? Now, I know what restaurateurs want and what they need, what the industry needs, okay? I want to do for the government what the government can't do. And again, doing something good. It makes me feel good, right? And that's create jobs and create opportunities. So I've got a committee of about 6 guys, real top guys. They created concepts. They built concepts out. They understand the industry. They're really good. So if somebody wants to come in and do a concept, they got to present their concept to us. Now, there's restrictions. The concept can't be more than 2,500 square feet. They can't put more than $500,000 in a finish out. We want it to do at least $1 million to $1.5 million worth of sales. So if you meet those criteria, you could put wheels on it and go all over the country. So another thing they don't want any guarantees on they don't want to guarantee a lease. So we have no guarantees on the lease. So let's say a guy comes in and he says, hey, I want to do this. I want to do a restaurant. We look at it. We got the committee. Say, let's see the food. Let's what it's going to look like. Let's taste the food. What's your idea? What's your central deal? What's your point of difference? Everything. We try to make it so we want it to be successful. But we say, okay, you come in or no, forget about it. Oh, you know, not ready yet. And it's got to be. All these places got to be. They got to be owner operated. They got to be. Organic. Okay, and they got to be different, brand new. Can't come in there with no. We don't want any kind of brand down there. We want to create brands. Okay, so now the guy comes in and he says, well, okay, but I haven't got $500,000. I say, okay, well, we got a fund. We got individual investors, and we got the equipment people to be in this fund, to fund the entrepreneurs. Now they come in, and they put up the $500,000. The fund does. Okay. They can put less if the cost less, but if they put the money in, the fund will own 50% of the deal, 50% of that guy's idea. My little consulting group will own 10% if it's bought and moved out of there. So our incentive is to make it as successful, help them out, try to get somebody to come in and buy it, and the guy's going. There'll be 10 of these places around the Metroplex. He'll be a chain. And then from then on, what else? And then, because every restaurant concept around had to have its first location, no matter what it was. All my restaurants, I had that first location. I had the first concept. I had that prototype. So now this guy comes in and he owns 40% of it without putting any money in. It's hard work. Where do these young guys get these opportunities today? Okay? Now this thing is almost perpetual. Okay, so think about it. The guy's going there, and we got all these restaurants going. We got 30 restaurants, and the guy is only doing 500. Everybody else is doing $1.5 million to $2 million or so. Say, hey man, it's not working. Change the concept. No guarantees on the lease. Go dark. Change the concept. You can't come up with a concept. We'll come up with one for you. We'll help you with one. The fund is going to be, the driver anyway. So the guy, if it's the sweat equity guy, that's the problem. He's gone. He's out of there. We just put somebody else in. But it's like doing an oil well. You drill an oil well, you hit a dry hole, you got to move everything. Well, we got our CapEx is right there. The facility is all there. We just try another driller or another idea to drill with until you hit bingo. It's perpetual. We'll never lose money. And if a place does $1.5 million and you only put $500,000 in it, you'll be making about $300,000 a year out of that place, out of that restaurant. That means the fund puts in $500,000. The fund is going to get about $150,000 a year in their share of what's happening. That's about a 25% return. And then if it takes off, they're latched on to the growth of the company. So it's a win-win deal for everybody. The equipment people are latched on to the equipment, selling equipment all the time. The investors.
Fishmonger?
Yeah.
Have fishmongers there buying from them?
Keep going. This is what the whole thing is about. Now, that's the critical mass is going to be restaurants, but we got to have other things there, too. Minor critical masses. So people come in, they eat. Where do you want to go? Want to go someplace else? Want to have the whole thing's going to be an experience. We got off-Broadway theater. We got a culinary arts school down there. We got, that's 10,000 square feet. We got a brewery down there doing keg beers. Another 10,000 square feet. People come in there, they buy a mug, and they get all the beer they want, and all that stuff. So all these things are entertainment. We got retail, but young people, designers, they're going to create a brand. Okay, they come in there, and they create brands, and they, like you see around now, around big brands. I mean, they got to start. So we're going to start these things. We're going to incubate. We think we got one of the most recognizable destination places in Dallas. Where are you? We're at the end of on the other side of the new bridge.
Go over the bridge.
That bridge over there.
Immediately on the right.
As you come over, it's on both sides.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's on both sides.
You can see a building there on the right now.
But these are it's creating opportunity, which and it's not the government that's doing it. It's free enterprise,
Exactly.
individuals, entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Okay, your question?
Michael?
My question is, and this is kind of maybe a loaded question, but to what extent do you protect an idea? And the reason why I ask that is because I've heard numerous times from two groups of investors that on one hand, you want to get an NDA signed by everyone. On the other hand, the idea changes so much throughout the startup process, it doesn't matter. So to what extent do you protect an initial idea?
Well, you know, a lot of times when you go to give your idea to somebody, like a lot of I won't listen to other people's ideas per se, because that prohibits me from doing it. You know, I won't sign any confidentiality deals because I may want to do that, you know, or I may be thinking about doing that, or if someday if I did that, he may come by and, hey, I stole his idea. I don't want his idea. You know, if you let him go do it, and I'll look at it, and I'll go there and say, well, I can make that thing better, so I'll take it, make it better, and be different. You know, but I just don't want to. So you got to, when you're doing it, the best thing to do is get the thing patent or copyrighted, or get it protected, get a lawyer, get it protected, and then you can show people and have some protection on it. But a lot of people that are doing things won't want to.
Yeah, you'll get companies to sign NDAs sometimes, but you will not get an institutional investor to sign an NDA. Don't even worry about it. Other question? Yes. 1 second. Go ahead.
Now I'm passing it around.
Oh, you're passing it around. Out the back.
In your past experience, what was the most difficult decision you have ever had to make in business?
Oh, most difficult decision you've ever had to make.
About what age were you, and what was the most difficult decision that you remember that you sweated about it, you had to pray about it? I mean, you just couldn't make the decision.
That's a good question.
I guess getting married.
I am not surprised.
Well, I think I don't know. I guess
Next question.
no. I think what you do is, I mean, everybody says sometimes, you know, some restaurants I sold too soon, and some restaurants I didn't sell soon enough. You know, and you gotta know when to fold them and when to hold them, and they're the decisions you make as you go along. Everything's not a winner, but and you know, it takes a while to be in the business because you gotta, if you're going to be creating stuff, you got to be able to afford to close what you're creating down, but you're not going to be able to do your next one, and you got to leave it a clean slate when you close it down. Everything's paid for, nobody got hurt, everything's done, you're done, now you go on to the next one. Yes?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually do have a question. It seems like your investment strategy is to place a lot of bets, and some people may refer to that as sort of an ADD investment strategy. It's sort of appealing to me, but do you find that you're distracted by one investment, or do you have to actually close the door on the last investment before you start the next one?
Do you like to invest serial or parallel?
It depends. Just like our fund, Scientific Health Development, I'm the general partner and Stuart's the general partner. We make all the decisions, but we got a CEO and an analyst that find all the stuff and bring it to us, and we talk to the people. But we got a philosophy. We call it a 2+2 philosophy. We don't put more than $2 million in any incubator. And we try to have it ready to be marketed and sold within 2 years. Be ready to go to market and start selling it. 2+2. And that's our philosophy. So, you know, we didn't get and I deliberately did not do a big fund. We did a fund for a $15 million fund, and we did another $15 million fund. We're on a second one. We'll do a third one, and that's going to be $15 million, because I don't want my people being in the fund business, you know, trying to get this money placed. We take our time. It takes us about 3 years to place the $15 million. We look at the stuff, look at it carefully, and look at a lot of stuff, and you know, and kiss a lot of frogs. But we get some good winners. And right now, the first fund, we've got about looks like about a 16, 18 return on it, which is good. Everybody's got their money back now. We're working on with the
House money.
house money now, and it's working pretty good. We got one deal. It's a scientific health development, anything to do with medicine and science and stuff. We got one. It's a topical Botox. How's that?
What are the what?
Topical Botox.
Oh, topical Botox. That's a big one. That's
Okay.
sexy.
Get rid of it. That's sexy. A lot of feel. And you know, it's funny. We did that, and I had a bunch of plastic surgeons in there, you know, to look at it when we were looking at it to get their advice and everything else. And we found out that the biggest application is not wrinkles. It's hyperhidrosis, the way people sweat. Okay, they sweat like cream. They get needles and all in their arms, their crotch, their feet, everything, and it's painful. And this you use like a deodorant. You put it on, and it lasts 30 days. I mean, 3 months. So you know, it's a real big market for it. And the other market was acne. Okay, it keeps it kills the muscles under the skin, so it can't squeeze the pimples or it can't squeeze the sweat glands. You know, like that. So things like this, you know, are really giving something. But big market, it's sex appeal.
So you had indicated you wanted to go back to Macaroni Grill. You're going back to fix it. What did they do to screw it up? And if you were still there without ever exiting, what would you have done differently?
Oh, they didn't abide by the Constitution. Okay? They deviated from it. There are 5 points. I mean, remember the opera singers? Where are they? Remember the gladiolas going right straight down there? Where are those? Remember the big dishes with all the pasta and stuff in it? You know, where's that go? You know, where did I go in there now, and I just started going back because they're starting to change it. But before, man, you go in there, it's like they're playing elevator music. Remember the opera we had going?
Yeah, it was cool.
Opera singers going? All that energy, it's dissipated. It's not there. Then you start changing around. Where do you see booths in Italian restaurants? You go to Italy, they don't have booths in there. They put booths in there, they change the lighting, you know. They just,
But other than that, you really enjoy it?
yeah. You know, well, I quit going, you know, just,
Yeah,
it gets upsetting, you know, when they do that. But, and then, you know, for example, you know, we'll go into different cities where they're at and get in with the Italian-American clubs, okay, and get all the old Italian ladies that come in there, you know, to pay big dinner for them, have them come up with recipes, and we'll pick a recipe or two and name them after the ladies in that town. You know, then I'm going to go to Italy, and one meal at a time, a month. Every month I'll be going and making an ad, showing a little town, you know, a little restaurant, picking out this food and everything else, and we're going to bring it to Macaroni Grill. These will be the ads, you know, and be like that. No, do you see that ad? I think it was Geico, I don't know, Christopher Columbus coming over in that speedboat. Yeah. I'm going to do that, dressed up like coming over with loaves of bread, going to Macaroni Grill. But anyway.
Picking up on what you were saying about finding opportunities, using that model of
Speak up a little bit.
of finding a need in a company, what are their pain points? That's where you go off and start up your company and bring it back to them. Most of the places I've worked at had me sign an agreement that anything I thought of was owned by them, any thought I had. I never could figure out a way around that.
Well, I mean, you don't have to
comments?
let them know. I mean, you just figure out the idea. You just figure, I mean, you figure out the problem, okay? Leave the company, then come up with the solution. And then go back, start a company, and then go back and sell that solution to that company. I mean, you know, it's... So you have to leave? Yeah, leave, oh yeah. Well, you know, let me tell you,
like
being an
Steve
entrepreneur, I had it was funny. Norman Brinker, everybody remember Norman, since you know, passed on, but Norman and I were very good friends, and he brought me into, well, when he bought Macaroni Grill from me. Brinker bought it, and he wanted me to come with the company, and I said, Norman, I said, I never had a job in my life. I can't work for anybody. You know, I'll mess up your culture. I can't take orders or anything like this, so I said, I couldn't do that, but he talked me into it, and a consulting firm. I was consulting for so many. Then I became a partner with him, and I was a partner with Brinker. But I was an entrepreneur in a major corporation. They call it entrepreneurship. Okay, where you come in there, and I was able to create things within their company. which now I think is the deal. But I remember us being written about us for doing that. You know, we were able to pull it off. And I was able to function within a major company and create things for them. And I owned 50% of it. And then when they, you know, built 2 or 3, then they'd buy me out and took a bunch of stock. But anyway, it worked out.
Hey, I got a question for you. I do some mentoring in West Dallas and at the high school. Now, the concept that you have with West Dallas and you buying all the land, I live in Capel, and Capel has something similar to where they're doing something downtown with basically restaurants and houses on one side. But my question to you is, with the economic, I would say, depression or economic situation, how do you combine what you're doing already and kind of incorporate that area because of the situation that's basically, you know, going on in that area?
How do you, make sure I understand the question, how do you take what's going on in that area and what?
Basically you bringing in an economic, vibrant area of restaurants and a lot of different things into West Dallas. And you have a lot of odor, there's a lot of poverty. So how are you kind of combining that with that area versus, and I just kind of bring it up with Capel because Capel is kind of doing some of the similar situations with houses, but that's a different area. So
are you talking about like revitalization of a neighborhood?
That's basically it. Okay. Because
well, I think you know, we're not bothering the neighborhoods. They're off to the side. We're down that main deal, and I think it's the location is the destination location. It takes you from here. It probably take you on the tollway or in 75, or you know, right traffic. It'll take you about. I live in by Northwest Highway there, and what's the area I live in?
Preston Hollow.
Preston Hollow. There you go. And it takes me 7 minutes to get there. Once you're on the tollway, 75 or any tollway or any highway, their main highway, there's one traffic light you hit, and that's when you get off the bridge on our property. We got the most recognizable, I think, destination place, and it's easy to get to. We got a dart going right straight through us, you know, and the dart goes out to the stadium, so we, you know, all that happening there too. And it's very close to downtown. I mean, we're going to be getting a lot of business from downtown in the daytime, nighttime, all the time. We think it's a very vibrant, be a good, but we've got to create an experience, okay? Everything's based on experience, and this is done for young people, not old people, okay? Old people have been over there, they don't like it, they got a stigma. Okay, they see, oh, West Dallas, what the hell is that? I remember that when Bonnie and Clyde lived there. So, but young people coming over there, they're going to see what we've got. As soon as you come over, they're going to see what we've got. So, wow, this is West Dallas? Where have I been? You know, so it's the new people we want to get, young people. In fact, we're having an outside concert area to take 5,000 people, you know, for going like that. Where in Dallas do they have that for, you know, that happening out there?
One last question.
Yeah, Phil, don't you think, though, that once that's up and running, that's got to start moving further west into West Dallas and transforming it? Oh. That's what every city I've been in, when you do something like that.
There's a spark, and
there's a spark, and then all of a sudden, the poverty, and it does eliminate some poverty. There's no question about it. Some people move because of it, but it does revitalize. And
it's like Bishop Arts.
Revitalizing is a word.
Yeah. What we did, we looked at that thing and we tried to figure out what we're going to do there. Okay, when we first started, we got we started going to make it the next financial district of the United States. You know, the Federal Reserve is right down the street. You know, and all these banks that want to make it, you know, come down here to put major banks down here and so forth. That was a long-term idea, good idea, maybe 20 years from now. And then the other idea we came up with was, well, we're in Dallas, the energy capital of Texas, the energy capital of the United States. Why don't we become a non-carbon premium green area, district? Name that district. We're already a municipal management district now, we're our own district, but name it that's synonymous with green, like Silicon Valley is with chips. Name that area the same name, and everybody wants to make a statement in premium green, put their buildings there, you know, the corporate buildings, and now we get all the major technology companies to come in and make it technology efficient. They can keep all the IP. We don't care. We want to make a model for the world, okay? These are all good ideas, but they're long-term ideas. So what we're doing is taking what we've got there and come up with a short-term idea that does not interfere with the long-term idea. So we're still owning everything, leasing out apartments and going down. So we're going to have apartments back there. We can create a community, but a community that could be evolve into that someday. So, you know, we did all that planning and thinking and everything else. It gave me a headache, but it was, we think we got a good plan there. But it's going to evolve. It's going to become a community where people live in there, and what do they got when they come out? They got that whole deal I was telling you about. Rooftop bars and restaurants and nightclubs, jazz clubs, the whole thing, and done properly. In fact, I was talking to the chief of Dallas, the police chief, and he's very excited about it. He's given us proper, you know, patrols, police, and all that stuff down there. He wants to start off right, so we have no crimes or anything else like that down there. He's going to, you know, cameras all around the place, so it's not looks like a, you know, we're worried about that stuff. But anyway, it's the whole city. They've been very cooperative. They want something to happen down there. They don't want that to be a bridge to nowhere. So we're getting a lot of help from the city.
Any one last question? Nope. Okay. Yes.
So you mentioned earlier about your failures. You know, you fail once, fail twice, learn it, you run away from it. You know. So what was your? You know, every entrepreneur's got a good failure story. What was yours?
Well, I did a place right after Fuddruckers. You know, I kind of felt bad about getting everybody diseased and all. I want to come up with a healthy place. So I opened a place that was we call it an eating spa. It was called Sticks, and we did this yakitori cooking, where you know cook these other things on little sticks, shish kebabs, you know, and you cook them, charbroil them. You come in, it was very nicely done. The place was about as big as this room, and we had set up like bleachers. And had a kitchen underneath the bleachers, you know, steps and all that. And they could watch all the cooking being done. And we had no whiskey, had beer and wine, and we had, you know, the rice and all that stuff and all. And we it was doing good, but it wasn't doing good enough. So I got my marketing company to come in here and say, you know, I do concepts. What did I do wrong here? Let me, you know, check it out. So they did. They came back with two things. One, they said, or three things. They said, everybody liked the food. I had more repetitive business than the fast food business. People really liked it. No problem with the food. It was really good. And he says, the big problem was that you attracted a $60,000 a year family or person. The real problem was there's only about 5,000 of them in San Antonio at the time. So he said, you got a great concept. It was, it's got to be in a different city, you know, maybe Dallas or Washington, New York, or someplace like that. So I said, I don't want to move. I mean, we videotaped it and got a lot of set recipes and put it in the drawer, and it's probably still there. But today it would have worked. It was too soon. You had no smoking. That was an anomaly then, you know, and the food was healthy. So, but too soon.
Location.
Yeah. Timing is important.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much, Phil. Really
Okay,
appreciate it. This has been awesome.
All right.
Thank you very much. So, two announcements, and then we have the quick round, I call it. First announcement is it is right now, says the 27th of November. It will be the 20th. Nobody knows this yet, but it's the 20th. It's Paul Bettner. Who has played Words with Friends? Who's heard of it? Yeah, there you go. 75 million downloads. He sold the business to Zynga, and now he's left, and he's going to talk about some of the new things he has going on. So that's going to be Tuesday, the 20th of November, and it might change, so just hold off. I'm not going to send out an announcement until it's absolute. And the next one, Charlie Vogt of GenBand has agreed. Charlie is the CEO of GenBand, and GenBand was just announced by the Wall Street Journal as the fastest growing venture-backed startup in America and beat 5,900 other companies. It's a Frisco-based company. If you've never heard of them, they're in the long-haul VoIP world, and really, really interesting business. He's going to be the next speaker as well. We're working on dates, so I do not have a date there. But those would be the next two. And I'm always interested if you all have ideas, especially I'd like to have a female entrepreneur. So if you all have good ideas, female entrepreneurs, love to have those as well.